Morgan Housel, author of The Psychology of Money, argues that building wealth has almost nothing to do with intelligence and everything to do with behavior. These are the facts about money that, once you hear them, will change how you think about your finances forever. From the psychology hijacking your wallet to the invisible taxes draining your savings, this is everything they never taught you in school, and there's a reason for that. Let's start with something deceptively simple. What is money actually made of? If you said paper, you're wrong. Federal Reserve notes are 75% cotton and 25% linen, so you're literally carrying fabric in your wallet. But here's what's stranger. That fabric barely matters anymore because only 8% of all the world's currency exists as physical cash. The rest is electronic, just numbers on a screen, ones and zeros moving between servers. Money, at its core, is a story we all agreed to believe in, and that story has been running for at least 5,000 years, ever since the first coins appeared in China around 600 BCE. Knowing what money is, though, pales in comparison to understanding how your brain handles it. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Behavioral economics, a field combining psychology and economics, has revealed something unsettling. Your financial decisions are not rational, and they never were. Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics for his work in behavioral economics, showed that your brain relies on mental shortcuts, emotions, and deeply ingrained habits that frequently work against your own financial interests. Thaler called one of these patterns mental accounting, the tendency to treat money differently depending on where it came from or where you plan to spend it, which is why you'll happily blow a tax refund on something frivolous while guarding your paycheck like a hawk. It's the same money. Your brain just doesn't see it that way. There's a phenomenon called loss aversion, and it might be the single most important concept in personal finance you've never heard of. Kahneman and Tversky's prospect theory, one of the most cited papers in all of economics, proved this formally. People feel the pain of losing money roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. That's why you hold on to a losing stock far too long, why you won't cancel a subscription you never use, and why you avoid investing altogether, because the fear of loss paralyzes you more than the promise of growth motivates you. The endowment effect plays into this too. The simple fact that you overvalue things just because you already own them, making it even harder to cut your losses and move on. Then there's anchoring bias, where the first number you hear irrationally shapes every financial judgment that follows. Confirmation bias, where you only seek out information that supports what you already believe. Overconfidence bias, where you think you're better with money than you actually are. Status quo bias, where you stick with default options even when better ones are sitting right in front of you. These aren't character flaws. They're features of the human operating system, and the financial industry knows every single one of them. Morgan Housel put it directly. Building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns, and a lot to do with your savings rate. Behavior beats intelligence when it comes to money, every single time. Warren Buffett, the most studied investor in history and a central figure in Housel's book, made 97% of his net worth after his 50th birthday, not because he suddenly got smarter, but because he let compound interest run its course without panicking. Now here's a number that should stop you cold. Americans answered only 49% of financial literacy questions correctly in 2025. Essentially, a coin flip. And that ignorance carries a serious price tag. Poor financial literacy cost Americans more than $246 billion in 2025 alone. People with very low financial literacy are twice as likely to end up trapped in debt, and 3 times more likely to fall victim to fraud and scams. Americans lost $10 billion to fraud in 2023, a 14% jump from the year before. 82% of adults who went through high school wish they'd been required to take a personal finance class. 30 states now require standalone personal finance courses for graduation, which is good news, but it took until 2026 to get there. So let's talk about what financial literacy actually teaches you, starting with the Rule of 72. This is one of the most powerful concepts in all of finance, and it fits in a single sentence. Divide 72 by your interest rate, and that's roughly how many years it takes to double your money. At 8%, your money doubles in 9 years. At 10%, roughly 7. The S&P 500 has averaged close to 10% annually in recent years before inflation, meaning a simple index fund investment, the kind Buffett himself recommends for most ordinary investors, doubles approximately every 7 years. That's not magic, that's math. And it works in reverse too. If inflation runs at 6%, the Rule of 72 tells you your money's purchasing power gets cut in half in just 12 years. This is also the core logic behind the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, which uses index fund investing and aggressive savings rates to compress those doubling periods into a timeline most people think is impossible. Which brings us to inflation, the silent destroyer. Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman called it the only form of taxation that can be levied without any legislation. $1 in 1960 is worth just 9 cents today. Since the year 2000, the dollar has lost roughly 46% of its value. And this hidden tax doesn't hit everyone equally. A Congressional Budget Office report found that lower and middle-income households shoulder a disproportionate burden of inflation. Your savings account isn't saving your money, it's slowly evaporating it. You might think the solution is simply to earn more, and that leads us to one of the most misunderstood studies in modern psychology. In 2010, researchers Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton concluded that happiness increases with income, but levels off at around $75,000 a year. That number became gospel, but it was wrong, or at least incomplete. Professor Matthew Killingsworth's research found no plateau at 75,000 or any other level, with happiness continuing to rise with income well beyond that threshold. A 2023 paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that earnings up to $500,000 kept boosting overall happiness. And that original $75,000 figure from 2010? Adjusted for inflation, it lands at about $103,000 today. The reconciled finding is nuanced. For most people, more money does mean more happiness. But for the unhappiest 20% of the population, the effect flattens around $100,000. Money can't fix everything, but it fixes a lot more than we were told. Meanwhile, let's look at where the money actually sits. In the third quarter of 2025, the top 1% of Americans held roughly $55 trillion in assets, approximately equal to the wealth held by the bottom 90% combined. Globally, the wealthiest 0.001%, about 56,000 people, hold 3 times more wealth than the bottom half of the entire world population. Between 2019 and 2025, workers worldwide saw a 12% decline in real wages, while pay for the 1,500 highest-paid chief executive officers jumped 54% to an average of $8.4 million. The first trillionaire may emerge by 2027. And while wealth concentrates at the top, a new kind of debt is quietly spreading everywhere else. Buy now, pay later services like Affirm and Klarna reached over 91 million American users in 2025. The pitch sounds harmless. Split your purchase into 4 payments, no interest, no credit check. But 41% of users reported making late payments in the past year. 60% carry multiple buy now, pay later loans at the same time. Users also hold an average of $871 more in credit card debt than non-users. As of 2025, Affirm started reporting to credit bureaus, meaning a missed buy now pay later payment now damages your credit score just like a missed credit card payment. What was marketed as a convenience is functioning as a debt trap for millions. Total U.S. household debt hit $17.8 trillion in mid-2024. Global debt reached $300 trillion, roughly $30,000 for every person on Earth. And if you have $10 in your pocket and zero debt, you are wealthier than 20% of Americans. Let that land for a moment. Here's what all of this adds up to. Money is not just currency. It's psychology, it's policy, it's power. The forces shaping your financial life operate mostly below the surface, in the cognitive biases you don't notice, the inflation you can't see, the debt products designed to feel painless, and the wealth gaps that widen while you sleep. The single most valuable thing you can do is understand these forces, because once you see them, you can't unsee them. And that awareness, that fundamental shift in how you think, is worth more than any single investment you'll ever make.